All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for dealing with us while we took a little holiday break, but we are back and ready to shape some dough this morning. So, as always, I'll go over my tools first. I have my scale. I got a little bit of all-purpose flour. I have 2 bannetons, my double loaf, and a bench scraper. Now, if you don't have baskets that look like these, don't worry. I sometimes make too much dough and I have to use mixing bowls lined with like a tea towel, and then you can just flour that the same as we're going to flour these, and it works exactly the same. So don't fret about these. You can buy these on Amazon. You can get, I think, a 4-pack of these oval ones for about $40 on Amazon. But there are many cheaper options if you just want to go plastic bowl with tea towel. That's totally up to you. As far as bench scraper, you don't necessarily need a bench scraper. You can use a knife. You can use anything with like a sharp-ish edge. This isn't a super sharp edge. It's just sharp enough that it's going to cut right through our dough. I like these because I can also scrape up my mess afterwards. You can buy these on Amazon. I don't believe you can buy these at like Walmart, but you can buy them at places like Williams-Sonoma, Sur La Table, all those kinds of places. All right, so first things first, we are going to flour our baskets because if I don't do it now, I will forget, and then when I'm ready to put my dough in, I will not have a floured basket. So we are just going to give this guy a good dusting. I just use a little tea diffuser to dust them. You can just use like a small sifter. I don't super recommend just throwing flour in there because it doesn't distribute it very nicely. Later on when we turn these out, the flour is going to stick to the dough, and it will, for the most part, cover the whole surface. So if you're just kind of throwing globs in there, it's going to look patchy when you turn it out and you're ready to score and bake it. So we don't really want that. We want something that's going to give it like a nice, even dusting all the way around. This will make a mess. This is another reason I like to use the bench scraper, is because I can just scrape up all this excess flour after the fact. A lot of times when I shape at night, I will shape first and then feed my starters after, because I've already made a small mess, so it's not a big deal if I continue making a mess. Just little tidbits. I like to, work smarter and not have to do, I don't like to have to clean more than once if I don't have to. All right, so we have like a nice dusting of flour in there. Basically, you don't want to see on the bottom, especially you don't want to see the cloth. The sides are okay. It is going to rise up the sides like a little bit, but not terribly. But this is the part where it's going to stick to, so you want the good coating on the bottom there. All right, so next I'll show you what our dough looks like up close. All right, so this is a double loaf, like I said, so we're going to cut it in half. And so you can kind of see how when I poke it, it keeps my little finger indentations, and then it's got a lot of little bubbles on the surface. That is what we're looking for. This has been stretched and folded 4 or 5 times. Like I said, I don't really keep track of the time. It's usually about anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour and a half that I let it sit before I stretch and fold. It just kind of depends on my kitchen schedule, what I'm doing. And if I need to bake super quickly, then I'm going to stretch and fold probably every 30 minutes. So it just kind of depends on my schedule. So what we're going to do is we're going to weigh it. All right, so we've got 1,764. We're going to divide that by 2, so we have 882. So we'll take them out. And then I like to put the nice side down, so that way we can call him the ugly side if that's what you want to call him. Here, I'm going to move this a little closer so you can see. So we put the smooth side down. We're going to put the bottom side up, and I'll show you why in a minute. All right, so 882. We're just going to kind of saw him in half here. Ooh, that's too much. And you just want to get it as close as possible, right on if you can help it. Obviously, when it's an odd number, one's going to be 1 gram more than the other. Not a huge deal. They're going to be the same. Okay, so now we have 882 grams in each one. Slide this guy over. Okay, so now we just have this big log. So what we're gonna do is we have to degas it. And that's basically all the little bubbles that have built up inside this dough, we're gonna pop them. And we're just gonna push on it, just like this. You kind of hear the gas release when the bubbles pop. It's kind of satisfying, not gonna lie. Also, when you're stretching and folding, you'll notice that if you have a super, super bubbly active starter, you'll notice that when you start stretching and folding, probably on your second or third go round, that you'll have a lot of gas bubbles popping. And it's just probably it's silly, but it's probably one of my favorite parts because that just means everything's working the way it's supposed to, and it's very satisfying. All right, so I turned him horizontally here, and I'm gonna stretch him not super thin, because now we're gonna go into what's called lamination. I know lamination you've probably heard with like things like croissants and puff pastry or things of that nature. We're not gonna add anything here, but this is actually, if you are adding something, this is the step to add inclusions. So last month I did sweet potato, cranberry, and pecan loaves. I put the sweet potato in the dough when I initially mixed it, but then when I went to add the pecans and the cranberry, this is where I would add it. You add it here, and then when we fold, you add it where we folded, and again when we fold it one more time. So if you have inclusions, this is the step where you want to add it. Also, if you are like I do, I watch a lot of videos on Instagram, YouTube, you will see that in this step, a lot of people pull this. Like some people will literally take this whole table and they will spread just this dough so thin over this whole table during their lamination. That is for a very high hydration dough. It is not necessary. I don't love working with high hydration dough, and I don't love stretching it super thin, because if you don't have enough gluten, all you're gonna do is rip it. And so we don't want to do that. We just want it to look like a little rectangle. If you get to where you love working with high hydration dough, I don't know that we're really going to cover a lot of it. Maybe once we're done with the basics, we can experiment together. So, but for now, this is about the size that I like it to be for my lamination. Well, it's probably 12 to 14 inches this way, probably about 8 inches this way. I mean, and that's not even exact. Don't quote me on that. It's not a big deal. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take one side and we're going to fold it about halfway. We're going to do a 2/3 fold. All right, so then we still have this side, and what we're going to do is we're going to fold it over that side. So now we have a little bit of a smaller rectangle, right? Now this is the part that is so super important, that if you don't do it properly the first time, you're going to learn really quickly how to do it properly, because shaping is so important when it comes to how your bread is going to bake. So if you don't have enough surface tension when you shape it and you put it in the basket, your loaf is going to either fall flat or it's going to burst at a weird, even if you score it, it's going to burst at a super weird place. It's just going to do all kinds of weird stuff when you bake it. So shaping is so important. Aside from measuring your ingredients to begin with, shaping is probably the second most important thing. So what I like to do is we take the top and we kind of pull it out just a tiny bit to give it a little bit more of tension. And we push it down with our fingers, okay? And then what I'm gonna do here is I'm just going to, here, I'll try to show you this way so you can see better. I'm literally just going to take my fingertips on the back side and roll it forward. And then I'm gonna push it into this dough to try to seal it like that, okay? And that's creating a lot of surface tension on this side, because this side, the nice side that we kept down, is gonna be the top. It's gonna be what you see once it bakes, okay? So you can see on the side here how we have like a little spiral forming. We don't want that, because when we go to score, we're literally going to score from end to end, and that's going to burst and it's going to look not super great. So we're gonna pinch these closed as we go. Pinch closed, we're gonna roll again. And then we're gonna pinch closed. So I got a little bubble here, we gotta pop them. You can keep it, but it's just gonna bake kind of funny. Okay, so now when we get this way, right, I like to turn it, because when that part's away from me, I can actually create even more surface tension by rolling the very end. and then I pull it. So when I'm pulling it, I'm creating even more tension, and you can see this nice silky outside. If you don't have enough gluten, this is where you're gonna rip when you start pulling it. All right, and we're gonna pinch our sides again. We're gonna pull it again because that's gonna help seal the bottom as well. Pull it again, and then we're gonna flip it over. All right, you can see how it kind of starts to separate. So we're just gonna try to pinch seal it as best we can. And we're just gonna make sure that we're pinching everything sealed. Pinch it tight and close it. It's not really a huge deal if our sides, because when it goes, this basically what's gonna happen now is the bread is gonna go relax. So this is gonna spread a little bit. See how it's already starting to fall? And that's fine. But because there's so much tension in it, it's already keeping its shape. It's not like it's falling so much, right? Look, it's our little loaf guy. All right, so then we're gonna take, this is shaped for the oval. So we're gonna take him and we're gonna put his nice side down into the flour. All right. And one more time, you can make sure that he's pinched real good. All right. We're gonna set him aside for now. Then I'll show you what we cover him with here in a minute. Now we're gonna shape, this is called a boule. It's just a round loaf. So we're gonna do the same thing. Just shape, the process is just slightly different for the actual shaping of a boule. Not really a big deal. But it's the same technical way. You just want a lot of surface tension. You just want to make sure that your loaf, when you go to bake, is not going to fall out. Right. So the bowl, I don't really worry too much about it being like a perfect rectangle. I just like it to be super rectangular for that because it makes it super easy to shape into the shape I want to go in the basket. For this one though, it's going to be a circle. It's going to be a ball basically. So I just push it enough to where we've gotten the majority of the gas out. I don't feel any big bubbles anymore. And then we're gonna pull out the top like this. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. Pull out the top like this and pull it down. And then we're gonna take these two sides right here and we're gonna pull them out. We're gonna push them in. Pull it out, push it in. All right, and then we're gonna do the same thing on the bottom. Pull it out and push it in. All right, so now we've done that. We've got like a little twist looking thing going on. So now we're gonna take this top, pull it down. So we actually basically almost have that oblong shape from before, but now we're gonna take it, I'm gonna start rolling it and rolling it. And as you're rolling it, you wanna try to push. So I'm right-handed, so I'm mostly pushing in with my right hand as I roll. And you wanna just push under to get all of that excess on the bottom side, okay? But while you're creating the surface tension on the top. So you can see we got a couple of bubbles, that's fine. For me, I like to see that because it just, again, it just means that it's working the way it's supposed to be working. But we're gonna push and push and push and shape. And again, if you don't have enough gluten, this is where you're going to rip. You're gonna see tears. So it's kind of too late at that point to go back when it's fine. It's still gonna bake, it's just when you score it, it's gonna kind of crack in your scoring. It happens to me all the time, honestly. Not a big deal. The bread is still gonna eat the same. If you're super into scoring, there might be a better YouTube for just the scoring and how to shape for just the scoring, but this is just a more realistic way, in my opinion, of making sourdough versus setting a million timers. All right, anyway. So then I like to flip him over and pinch him. It's almost like a little dumpling where I like to pinch it all at the top to make sure it's all together. And then again, the nice side is gonna go down just like this. All right, so the one tool that I forgot, we have to cover them. So, hang on. You guys know all those shopping bags that we keep under the sink for, nobody knows what reason. Here's your reason. All right, so what I like to do is I take these shopping bags and I just cover them. And then fold it under, because this is gonna keep it from drying out. Whether you're doing a same day bake and you're leaving it out, or you're doing an overnight rest, you want to tuck those handles under, and that's going to keep your dough from drying out. no matter where it's sitting. You want to keep in that moisture. All right, so from here, and I like to make sure that I tint it a little bit like this because, so these we're going to same day bake. I'm actually not going to put these in the fridge because I have some in the fridge already from last night, and I'm just going to try to bake all of them today. So these are actually not getting an overnight rest. They are just going to sit on the counter for the rest of the day until they've grown and they're ready to bake. And I'll show you that in the next episode when we go through baking. But usually what I'll do is I shaped last night, I put on their bags, and I put them in the refrigerator. Actually, they're right over here. So putting them in an overnight rest in the fridge will help with the flavor. And it's just like a slow rise. Oh, this one got a little cold. So you can see it gets hard when it's in the fridge. And that's really fine. I prefer to cold bake. See, you got a little bubble right there. I prefer to cold bake because it actually helps to keep the tension, and it helps to keep the dough shape when it's been cold. They call it a cold retard overnight. That's just what it's called. So when it's been in the fridge overnight, it helps. You can see it's real cold, it's real stiff, and that's fine. That's actually what we want because it's going to keep this from splitting open. So later on, you'll see when I go to check on these, it's going to have relaxed and it's going to have grown a lot more than this one. And I'm going to have to go in and re-pinch this to create more surface tension because the sides will pull the bottom. So when I pull the sides in, it's going to help create more of that tension when I'm ready to bake. But whereas this is cold, it still has that because I literally shaped it, put it in a bag, put it in the fridge. It was good. It wasn't going anywhere. Like, it's just stiff. And now when I go to bake, it's just gonna bake beautifully. But there's many different schools of thought on how to do this, but I bag them, I put them in the fridge, or I bag them and I put them on the counter. Obviously the fridge is easier because then I'm not like constantly checking on them. I'm not worried like, oh, is it ready yet? I just know that when I wake up the next morning and I'm ready for them, they're ready for me. But if I'm not ready for them, they can stay in the fridge honestly up to another 24 hours at least. So many different schools of thought on the actual baking process, but we're going to get into that on the next episode. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. If you have successes, I would love to hear about your successes. We were just sent a wonderful success story a couple weeks ago, and that the percentages are really helping people. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.